Welcome, asswipes, to TP For Your Earholes. Today, we are talking about everyone's favorite alter ego character in Beavis and Butt-head, Cornholio. And we are going to do a little bit of a deep dive into this character and try to figure out why, after so little screen time and so much time, has this character been the one that has resonated with people for so long and in so many different ways. So, I am Patrick Schmidt. My co-host is...
Charlene Schmidt. My name is your name. Sorry, that's the thought that ran through my head.
Yeah, and we are very excited to be bringing you this episode, and we want to hear from you. To do that, the best way to get in touch with us is to follow us on our socials. So we are on Blue Sky, we are on Instagram, we are on Facebook at TP For Your Earholes. So reach out to us, and when we drop a new episode, you will be the first to know.
That's right. So we've got a little bit of research, we've got a little bit of conjecture, and then we're basically just going to open this up. So we're doing this in steps. This is an interesting paint by numbers episode of TP For Your Earholes. So how about we start with the origin story, if you will, because I think a lot of people have the misconception that the Great Cornholio just kind of came out of nowhere, and that was the first time we saw this character. That's not the truth, is it?
No, not at all. The episode The Great Cornholio is one of those episodes that when you talk to people who are fans of the show, this is one that rises to the top all the time. And I got into doing some research for this episode among a few others that we've got coming that we'll tell you about when it's time. This is the highest rated episode of Beavis and Butt-head on IMDb.
Like, ever.
Like, ever. It's rated at an 8.7. The Great Cornholio is the pinnacle of success for Beavis and Butt-head.
Wow.
No other episodes above an 8.5. And I think that's in huge part because this is such a loved character, such a loved alter ego.
Yeah. So if the first appearance of Cornholio was not in the Great Cornholio, where did this start?
So the first place that Cornholio shows up is in an episode called Generation in Crisis.
Ah, yes, the documentary filmmaker not really making a living.
Not really. He's got a nice grant from the Exco Corporation. But that's where we see Cornholio for the first time, and then he shows up again in the Great Cornholio. Now, I don't know if you were under this presumption. I was under a presumption that there was a pretty big gap between these two episodes. How about you?
Timeline-wise, it gets a little convoluted just because this was 1994, 1995, right? Where there's a lot of new Beavis and Butthead. So, in my mind, I'm not exactly sure where in the timeline Generation in Crisis was compared to the Great Cornholio.
So in my research for this episode, I learned something new, which is the gap between Generation in Crisis and its debut and the Great Cornholio and its debut. They were 2 episodes apart, and they actually premiered on back-to-back days. So it was July 14th and 15th, 1994.
Wow.
And that surprised the heck out of me because my assumption going into this episode was, okay, they did this 10-second bit in Generation Crisis. It got this amazing reaction. And then from that, they built this episode, The Great Cornholio.
You'd think, yeah. But
That's
no.
probably not the case.
Okay.
I think it was a little bit more surreptitious than that. Like they introduced this idea of this character and then gave him his whole episode to himself literally 24 hours later.
Okay, I want to know this origin story. Like behind the scenes origin story so bad. Like, did they kind of stumble on this in Generation in Crisis and think there is something we could really do with this? And then that spawned them writing The Great Cornholio, and then bam, it hit. I just really want to know because I tried searching around on the internet, finding some answers, and really the closest thing that I got was something on Reddit, which is not the most reliable, verifiable source, but I can relay what I found there. A user named Valahiru, hope I'm saying that right, said Judge was getting bored with the show and needed to mix things up, so basically he expanded on the improvised music video segments by trying to come up with stuff for an episode while recording, the Cornholio persona came out of this, and the bigger he got with the character, the better it got. Okay, that does not explain how things really, really, really came to be, though. Was
Right.
this just a weird brain fart out of Mike Judge that spawned an episode? Was this a writer's room collaboration? I want more.
Me too. And this is one of the frustrating parts about being a fan who doesn't have a window into the writer's room. If any of the writers from the original run of this series would like to join us and explain that process, we would love to hear from you.
Please, yes, if anybody, but especially somebody who was there, has the context and can help us fill in the blanks, because really, in my mind, for all these years, I've just been trying to connect some dots for the genesis of Cornholio. And one of those big aspects is the 1994 sugar and hyperactivity study, which I
Oh, yeah.
definitely remember seeing the headlines for, that gets cited in The Great Cornholio by Van Driesen. It
Hmm.
was a real thing. We can put a link to an article in the show notes.
We will. And check that out because it is crazy. It really is.
Yeah, and you know what? Even back then, I thought, you know what? That is some BS. Sugar equals readily available carbs, which means you've got energy. And I don't know about you, but in my eighth grade English classroom, there was a classmate who, this was right after lunch, consumed Mountain Dew on the regular, the sugar version. And maybe it helped that she was also blonde, but she definitely had that hyperactivity going on.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, you don't give kids sugar when you want them to be calm.
No.
Duh. I don't care what the research says. This is one of those times when I don't believe the science.
You know, and to be fair, I have not read the full scientific article. I don't know what the methodology was or the full thing of the findings. It's just colloquially, as a member of society, I am calling BS on you on this one, science.
Now, there was a little bit of a gap between those first two episodes and the first fully Cornholio episode, The Great Cornholio, and the other episodes that featured this character. And there were only four of them. And that's crazy to me.
That was it?
Yeah, there were only four. So it was The Great Cornholio, there was Viacon Cornholio, there's Buttnicks, and then there's Bungholio, Lord of the Harvest.
The Halloween special. Yeah.
And that's it.
Besides movies?
Besides movies, and now there were some stuff in the reboots. So, for
Yes.
example, in the 2011 reboot, there was the episode Holy Cornholio. In the most recent reboot, he shows up a couple times. Now, we're recording this before the third season of the new reboot launches, so we can't speak to that yet. But there's two episodes where Cornholio shows up, that's Weird Girl and in Sleepover, but those are like cameos. They're not full episodes.
Cornholio is not starring in the episode like he is in
Mhm.
some of those earlier ones. That is so
Mhm.
interesting to me because of how big this character got. Given that there is a gap between the Great Cornholio and then what followed in the original run, maybe they did not know that they had such a hit on their hands until the audience reaction just exploded and they said, okay, we've got to make more of these.
Right. Now, do you have a favorite of those four or of those five, I guess?
Oh man, that's tough because I really do love them all. Like each one is a very well used iteration of Cornholio. But I suppose for nostalgic reasons, because Buttnicks was an episode that was so near and dear to my heart, maybe I've got to go with that one. How about you?
You know what? Butt Next is also one of my favorite episodes. And I know when we did our favorite episodes episode, I didn't even mention it. And I've had some time to think about it now. I think I messed up.
Hey, that's okay.
That's a really good choice. And I also love Viacon Cornholio as well,
Me too.
where he gets crazy on soda instead of sugar. And I love that one. And it's really, really quotable and all that kind of stuff. Now, The Great Cornholio, don't get me wrong, great episode. But
Hmm.
near and dear to my heart, probably Viacon Cornholio and to a certain extent Buttnicks as well.
Nice. And that's not to say that Bungholio Lord of the Harvest isn't great, because for years my mom would get me Rolo candies just because of Rolios.
That's awesome.
And that is what we called them in the house.
So I think we ought to maybe make the jump from kind of where Cornholio came from to why it clicked. Like, why did
Yeah.
this particular version of Beavis really resonate with people? And we've got some theories about why that might be the case.
Yeah. So we'll get this conversation started, but I don't think by any means we're going to finish it.
No.
So let's share what we have and then open it up to our audience. I think number one is just the sheer absurdity of it all.
Oh, yeah. It's absolutely crazy to think that this would be a real person actually doing this in real life. Animation, you get the freedom to play around with those kinds of cultural norms, but it's absurd and outlandish, and that's what kind of draws people to it. And it's really funny.
It's basically like a manic extension of Beavis's personality, which in animation you can exaggerate even more. And visually as well as in your ear holes, it does create this kind of fun, contagious experience.
Yes. So another reason that we think he kind of clicked was that, let's be honest, we're immature.
Yeah.
We're all those 13-year-olds who take a little bit of guilty pleasure in saying a word like cornhole or a word like bunghole or a word like titicaca.
What is not funny about Titicaca? I'm sorry. I want to go to Lake Titicaca just because I can say Titicaca, Titicaca.
Yeah. And come out with your pants down. Maybe one of the most iconic lines in the entire series. It's super quotable.
Very.
And I think this really taps into this idea of allowing your audience to laugh at their own immaturity. We're laughing at ourselves almost in a way.
Yes. And look, this is finally something that every junior high schooler can do as far as imitations go. Even if it's terrible, you're still having a good time and people know exactly what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I also think that is a big reason why it was so contagious, is because, yes, it did tap into our 12-year-old brains, but also it was super quotable and it was just having this massive moment for people. It was easy. You could just put your shirt over your head and put your hands up and just say, come out with your pants down. And your friends all knew where that came from.
Yeah, for a character that hardly appeared on screen, when you think about the combined minutes, not that many, everyone knows where that's from.
Yeah, it taps into this raw and almost elated energy that certainly when I was a kid, I felt more than I do as an adult. But say you accomplished like a really big thing, right? And you're just feeling on top of the world. I feel like that is what Beavis feels as Cornholio. And it's got that finite shelf life for as long as he's on whatever drug he's on. He's just there, but in a steady state. And we're all thinking, I want to feel that way.
Oh, yeah. Well, and there is something to this idea of somebody being rhythmic and spastic at the same time, somebody who's freaking out and yet totally in control. It's this dichotomy that is really, really interesting and really, really enviable.
Yeah, I think we all wish we could have that level of energy all the time. Imagine the things that we could get done if we could actually be, well, kind of productive about it. I mean, imagine our portfolios,
Wow, portfolio.
right? If we were slam poetry reading and with that level of energy and all that crappuccino in our body, oh man, we would really make it.
And I do want to mention, because this started in July 94, in February of 1995, there are some people I want to find.
Oh, yeah?
And if they are listening, I hope they reach out. Because in February of 1995, there were at least 3 Valentine's Day Cornholios, meaning people who, I don't know if you remember this from back in the 90s, but people would leave like personal ads in the newspaper on Valentine's Day as a, hey, love you, babe, right?
Yes, this was a thing for those who did not grow up with the newspapers. This was a very regular occurrence.
Yeah, so we were not the only couples to bond over this show, which is kind of cute.
Aw.
So I want to find Dane Anthony and Erica Shane Diarrhea in Indianapolis. I want to find CC in Benton Harbor, Michigan. And I want to find the Great Cornholio and the short person who lives with you in Raleigh, North Carolina. Please let us know if your relationship survived a shared love for Cornholio.
That is fantastic. So help me if any one of these couples does reach out, if you're out there, man, I think this podcast will hit a peak for sure.
I can't see it going anywhere but down if we get a hold of some of these people. That might be the climax.
You said climax.
Yeah.
I think the only thing that could possibly top it is actually talking with somebody who has worked on the show and possibly Mike Judge himself. However, this would be a really good early peak for us. So, hey, if you're out there, come through for us, man. We'd love to talk to you.
So here's the other big question that we have and that we were kind of playing around with before we sat down to record, which was, why do we think the influence continues? Why are we still talking about Cornholio more than 3 decades later? Why is that such a pervasive thing in our society? And, I teach college kids, and even college kids who were 10 years from being born know Cornholio. So what is it that keeps people coming back to this character, and why do we think that influence still continues? And I want to turn the floor over to you to maybe theorize a little bit.
Okay, cool. Because I have been thinking about this. And so here is where I landed with it. I think the fact that Cornholio is used so judiciously is what keeps us wanting more. And the fact that they only go to Cornholio when they have a really good story, it makes the episodes even more memorable. Cornholio does not feel overused whatsoever, and it's not like they went to the well just because Cornholio quickly became a fan favorite. It's never thrown in really as a gimmick, with possible exception of the movies, because when you're doing a movie, you've got to go big, and it would be a disappointment if Cornholio wasn't there. But episodically, they do something a little different each time. Like you mentioned in Viacon Cornholio, he drinks a bunch of soda. And then in Holy Cornholio, he is a cult leader because he has a stigmata. And so they do something a little different each time. And now that we have a new season right on the way as of when we're recording this, I can't wait to see what happens next.
By the way, as you were saying that, I just realized we have 5 Cornholio-centered episodes and 5 different ways that Beavis gets hyper.
So it just makes me wonder, how might Cornholio show up? Why will he show up? What other drugs might he be on? What other sort of influences? Who knows where these episodes are going to take us? I'm very excited to find out.
Yeah, and I do think it's interesting because I was trying to think of a character who had the same sort of cultural relevance with such little screen time. And I don't know if there's a parallel for that in any other show. The only time I could really think of where there was a side character who maybe got bigger than the show would be Urkel in Family Matters. But speaking of a character that was overused, Urkel.
Yeah, that's just it, is they did know what they had on that show with Urkel and made him the centerpiece. So I don't know if that really tracks.
I don't think so. And I am asking now our listeners, is there another character like this that was in 4 episodes out of a few hundred that became such an entry point to the series for so many people?
Yeah, I do kind of wonder, could it possibly be Daria that is the closest parallel?
Oh, that's good.
Before she got her own spin-off, she's in a few episodes of Beavis and Butthead, and even when we just see her in class, she doesn't necessarily have a line, is used fairly judiciously in the show. Have not done a count on how many times Daria shows up, but maybe.
And I think Daria is the character that can carry a spinoff. Cornholio would not carry a spinoff.
No, he does need to be used judiciously because the overkill will just ruin it. Yeah. And I'm glad that the writers were cognizant enough to know that and use him responsibly.
And I think part of why the influence of Cornholio continues so rapidly today is that I think we all have these moments growing up. We all have these people growing up where we have things that mean something only to the people who were there and who lived it, right? So Cornholio is an inside joke that we all get to be a part of, which is kind of cool. And it works because we have those moments in our adolescence. Like there's one from my adolescence, it only is funny to me and my buddy Chris. And to this day, if I see Chris and I go, doo, 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 he cracks up. You're not laughing because you don't have the relevance for what that means. If they had made a show about me in my teenage years, you'd be dying right now.
Well, it's unfortunate that that didn't happen. But you are right. We all have these inside jokes with our friends and our peers. And I do think that maybe living in Cornholio's moment when it did explode, and especially as teenagers, makes it that much more endearing to us. And now that millennials our age have families and we are passing what we love down to our kids, that's why the next generations know about Cornholio because it's that much of a pop culture reference.
Absolutely.
Now, speaking of inside jokes, before we go, I do have one very deep cut Beavis and Butthead reference just for our friend Chris, who we play Jackbox games with on Tuesdays. Cock-a-doodle-doo! He'll know what that means.
And you know what? If you know what that means, dear listener, you are a true fan and you are in the right place. So we've shared a lot of thoughts, but at the same time, we've also left a lot of holes in this story. And that's kind of on purpose because we want to hear from you. We want to hear your thoughts about why you think Cornholio has become such a popular alter ego.
Yeah, and if you've got a story to share, hey, please reach out to us. We might read your comments on the air to continue this conversation. We're definitely opening the door, not shutting it. This is a conversation starter.
Yeah, and Shar, where can people find us?
Reach out to us on Blue Sky, Instagram, or Facebook. Our handle is TP for Your Earholes. You can do that there. Or if you want to fill out the contact form on our website, go to tpforyourearholes.com and you can contact us there.
We would love to hear from you. Part of why we started this podcast is to build a little bit of community around this show. And we really do hope to hear from you, even if it's nothing more than a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you find us.
Yeah, hey, I mean, it's the old podcast cliche, but it really does help us out, especially as a newer podcast starting out. We've only been around for a little bit, so that review makes a big difference in people finding us. So let's build this community.
So, Shar, what's our episode for next week?
We're going to go do a little deep dive on our favorite side characters.
Yes.
These are the recurring characters that we've seen more than once. What do we think about them? Why do we like them? Maybe why we don't like them. And see where the conversation leads us, because there's no telling what we'll do.
And remember, just because we don't like them doesn't mean they're not our favorites.
So thanks to all of you fart knockers out there for joining us this week. We'll hope we'll see you again next time.